I would like to welcome everyone to a special called meeting of the Davie County School Board of Education for Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda, and I will call on Ms. Haynes for a modification. It's already on.
I'm live, okay.
Yep.
Yes, if we can please add an addendum as a personnel report today.
This will be an addendum for the personnel report to the agenda as well. So with that, I need to approve that, or approve as listed with that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve with that addendum.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Potts, a second by Mr. Carroll. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. We need to take that off?
Yes. The meeting notice was brought
It was not. Sorry.
You had to crack, but we'll work it out. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We'll do
I just needed some exercise.
Yeah, I wonder where you were going.
I just
Okay,
needed to
so
know what the
that
notice
item
said.
will have to be pulled off. Do we need to have a new approval?
You cannot add that because your meeting notice was only for this purpose and did not go beyond that.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Good.
I'll send my motion.
I have a new motion. So entertain a new motion for the approve the agenda as listed. Do that again. Mr. Potts, would you like to do that
I will
one again?
approve as listed.
Mr.
Thank you.
Carroll?
Yes.
We'll do this all over again. All those in favor? Now, motion carries 6-0. Next, I will call on Mr. Wallace. We are here today to get an update from staff and to inform the public on how we as a school system will respond to the Senate Bill 220 and continue providing services to all the children. So with that, I will call on Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board, thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. Staff and guests that are here with us. Last Thursday, March 11th, Governor Roy Cooper signed Senate Bill 220, the Reopen Our Schools Act. Davie County Schools is currently in compliance with this act. That law requires all elementary schools to return or to be open under Plan A, which we currently are. It allows middle school and high schools to open under Plan A or Plan B, eliminating Plan C as an option. The law becomes effective on April 1, 21 days after the bill was signed. It requires students with an IEP or 504 plan to have the option of Plan A at the discretion of the student's parent or guardian. It also requires middle school and high schools that open under Plan A to partner with the ABC Collaborative to collect data and related to reopening. And if you are well aware that we are currently in a partnership with ABC Collaborative and have been since midsummer, and we have been, matter of fact, we're sharing data with them again this week. So we continue to do that. Davie County Schools opened for in-person learning on August the 17th under Plan B for grades 3 through 12. Plan A was in effect for kindergarten through second grade on August 17th. October 26th, at the end of the grading period, grades 3 through 5 moved to Plan A and have been in school under this plan 4 days a week since then. Secondary students have been in Plan B with in-person learning since August 17th, the original start date. These plans and decisions were enacted after hours of discussion with staff, parents, our local DHHS director, Suzanne Wright, a local physician, a reopening team, other district leaders, and at the direction of the ABC Collaborative, the group from Duke University that I've mentioned. Like any year, you build schedules for the entire year. You build schedules based upon student request. and the situation you're given. Obviously, this year is much different. At the beginning of the year, when we opened, our kids and parents were offered a virtual option as well. We had 972 kids that chose that virtual option originally. Throughout the year, we have worked with some of those families, and some of those children have been allowed to come back in the building. As you're all aware, the class size restrictions are still in place for kindergarten through third grade. So there are parameters that we have to obviously continue to work under, although we are in a pandemic. Since opening in August, Davie County Schools has not had a cluster or outbreak related to COVID-19. In January, after Christmas break, we experienced our highest number of active cases and quarantines among students and staff, with active cases reaching as high as 27 out of nearly 5,800 students that are on our campuses every day. Again, 27 was our highest number, and 20 staff members. In this same time frame, we had over 200 kids quarantined for up to as many as 14 days. We had nearly 40 staff members quarantined during this time frame. The situation caused major disruptions and additional work for everyone. Since January, these numbers continue to decline, indicating that the plans we have in place are working. After Senate Bill 220 was filed, I spoke with Suzanne Wright on a very important question, asking if the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services was going to amend the requirement for students and staff to be 6 feet apart. Ms. Wright reached out to DHHS, is yet to get a response. Superintendent, I was involved in a statewide meeting last week, and superintendents were informed that do not count on DHHS, North Carolina DHHS, to amend their policies. Jill has since confirmed that in speaking with her group and others. So again, the 6 feet of social distancing requirement in the Strong Schools NC, the toolkit that we've been operating under, is still intact and will remain that way as long as we know. I'm not sure when it'll change. Also, if someone tests positive for COVID today, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we have to follow the guidelines according to that toolkit. There's research coming out supporting that 3 feet of social distancing is effective. Some are saying, 2 studies primarily, one out of Massachusetts and one out of Utah, that are suggesting 3 feet of social distance is as sufficient as 6 feet. Now, there's still some discrepancy around that, and that's still to be worked through. Our K-5 classrooms have been set up to maintain as much distancing as possible since returning to the building in October. Larger classes in this grade configuration have been moved to the media centers, cafeterias, and other large spaces to maintain proper distancing. There are over 130 classes in the secondary level, 6 through 12. 130 classes that have at least 26 kids in them. If all secondary students return to the building, it will be impossible to maintain 3 feet of distance, much less the 6 feet. Relocating classrooms, as elementary schools have done, is not possible. Not enough space or staff. Plus, students must continue to eat in classrooms due to distancing requirements for cafeterias. The point is, in some cases, over 30 students would be eating together in one classroom. Transportation would have to be seriously changed, requiring additional bus routes to maintain the requirements to get all students to school. Daily symptom checks are still required. I asked about that as well. That is not going to change anytime soon. So on any day, Davie County High School would have to check 1,300 students. To be exact, 1,296. That's how many kids are in the AB classes. A and B schedule right now. So if you brought them all back, before they enter the building, there would need to be 1,300 temperature checks, and that's the staff does their own, as you well know. This would potentially delay the beginning of school, because I can assure you we can tell kids to be here earlier, and they're not going to, and there's not much we can do about it. Many students and parents have set up work schedules around the current plan that we're in. The high school staff is concerned some children would choose to work instead of returning to school. That has been made very clear to us. If we make a change, teachers will have some students that do not come back and some students that will return. Let me further explain. If you've got a class, your AB kids, let's say we bring them all back. Miss Webb, it's your biology class. All of your AB kids are in one room, 25. 10 of those kids may say, I'm not coming back. According to the Senate Bill 220, they have that option. I cannot put them in a virtual classroom. I cannot take that 10 that refuse and go say, okay, virtual biology teacher, you take them. You don't want to change teachers, you don't want to do that. So then you would be responsible for the 15 in front of you for second period and the other 10 that are at home, making your work, adding a whole nother layer to your work. And may I add that we have multiple teachers right now that are teaching 4 periods a day, 4 90-minute blocks a day, because we have such a difficult time hiring people during this pandemic. We are paying them extra because in this staff, primarily high school, which you know that, we do have some others, we have some middle school, but they said instead of putting a less qualified sub in that classroom, I will take over. And I will tell you, I am not an advocate of that. And there's people in this audience that I've worked with. I am not an advocate of 4 periods a day. But in the case that we're in, I do support it, obviously. And we're compensating them for that. But you can imagine with the scenario I just gave you of Miss Webb being the biology class, what that would potentially do. And that could be the case for all 4 classes you teach. Senate Bill 220 goes into effect April 1st. We are on spring break the following week. There are concerns about families traveling over spring break and then returning to classrooms, and in most all cases, being within 3 feet of each other. Plus, social distancing is not possible during class changes with all students in the buildings. Many of our teachers clean desks at class changes. So, and at the same time, we expect them to be in the hallways monitoring kids. Right now, under the AB schedule, Ms. Webb, back to your biology class, we may have assigned seats that I don't have to clean during class changes necessarily because you've got me assigned to a certain place to sit. But I will clean them after they're used, but in this situation, you wouldn't have that opportunity. After break, after spring break, there are 8 weeks remaining in the school year. State testing is required for grades 3 through 12 during the last 2 weeks of school. State end-of-course exams and teacher-administered tests. Teacher-administered tests would typically be prior to in the week prior to the end of school. End-of-course exams are administered the last 5 days of school. Therefore, significant changes would be made for an additional 12 to 14 days at most of school. So if I exclude the 2 weeks, or if I exclude 1 week for sure, we'd be bringing them back 2 additional days a week. 6 or 7 times 2 is 14, 12 or 14. I'm not taking away from the value of being in the classroom. And I just want you to understand, I want to context that a little bit. Doubling the number of people in the building each day will eliminate the 6 feet of distancing requirement. And we cannot ensure 3 feet of distancing with over 130 classrooms having 26 or more students. We are well aware of the impact this year has had on student learning. The state legislature has filed bills mandating summer school and to support learning loss. We have not received clear directions or the actual plans of what we must do. But we are planning already. We are planning to provide summer school for any child, K through 12, that so chooses. And we're using COVID funds. We will provide transportation as needed. I say that to let you know that we do have a plan, or working on a plan, and there will be a plan in place to provide an opportunity for kids to replace or recover some learning loss. Keep in mind that not all students will choose to attend summer school. However, we are looking at next year, and we're also making plans, and what we're referencing those as transitional classes. If children are behind, or how do we recover and move forward? There will be classes built, and the teachers and lesson plans will be designed to recover some learning loss at the beginning of next year. Over the past week, district staff has collected information and talked with parents, staff, principals, medical professionals, our nursing staff, and Jill Wilson has provided invaluable guidance. You all have received emails and calls from students, parents, and staff as well. At this point, I'd like to reference you to a letter that's lying on your desk or at your location from the Davie County DHHS Director, Suzanne Wright. And I won't necessarily go into everything there, but I want you to know that the message in her letter is that she supports a decision to continue the plan that we're on because of the lack of the ability to social distance. She also lists a couple of things there that I was not aware of about the Moderna testing and being tested with children, and that Pfizer is now available for some children for ages 16 to 64 for people with medical conditions. Her last statement, by deciding to maintain the current plan through the end of the school year, allows Mr. Wallace to see developments with the items mentioned above and ensure a safer return to school for all in the fall. We understand clearly as a staff that there is not a best plan for everyone while continuing to work through the pandemic. However, the communication we have received overwhelmingly supports staying the course as we are now working to meet the needs of all students. And that is what we plan to do. We will continue to make adjustments based on individual student needs while following the directives from Senate Bill 220 and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. The plan we're currently operating under is working. Is it the best plan? No, it's not. There is no one in this building that will argue with you whether children should be in a classroom every day. That is a given. Everyone believes that. We're educators. That's the way it's supposed to be. During this pandemic, we have had to make decisions, hard decisions, and go on based on things we know. Our kids have lost things, the prom. We had a graduation last year, but it wasn't our traditional graduation. I will be very frank with you that one of the things that bothers me the most is the potential of bringing every child back, as I've described here, and then there being an outbreak or something happen and preclude us from holding a real graduation. We need closure. These children need closure. They need a celebration for 12 to 14 days. And I hate to context it that way. Those 12 days are vital. I got it. But I'm concerned that if we make a change to our plan, that has worked. Folks, we've got 6 kids out of 5,800 right now today that actually have COVID. 6 cases. We have 0 staff. We've been right there for 2 weeks. Our numbers of quarantine are down below 50. Today we have 1 staff member quarantined. We want to finish the year without increasing the risk of having to quarantine large groups or students and disrupt the potential of having a graduation. Extracurriculars activities are taking place right now, and those are extremely valuable to so many kids, even the kids that don't play. Most of you are aware that we did an online ticketing opportunity to purchase tickets to be at events. That sold out. The Friday night, the home game 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, sold out quickly. It was wonderful to see a group of kids and people in those stands. I'm concerned that coming back would potentially put that at risk. Our recommendation and suggestion today is to let you know that after many conversations and a lot of hours, that we plan to stay the course and finish the year under our current plan, following the guidelines from Senate Bill 220 and the Department of Health and Human Services. It specifically mentions children with 504s and IEPs. We will address that. We've already been addressing that. We were dealing and addressing children that need us that don't have 504s or IEPs. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments, and I'll be glad to address any thoughts or questions. And I would like to open to my staff, if you have anything that I may have failed to mention, that you're welcome to share. Or maybe questions will invoke some other comments.
As I ask for questions, I know, let me be the first to say thank you for your leadership, for the staff, all staff, no matter where you are. Of course, the transition and all the success that we have seen. Again, it is not ideal, it's not where we are, but I think it's the best place. You don't have to go too far to talk to other places, other counties, other districts that would love to be in the position that we're in. But I appreciate the words and leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may make one more comment, I want to commend, I failed to. I had to do a sticky note on the way out the door, and I just forgot it. We administered the end of course exams. And although we have applied for a federal waiver, and our state, North Carolina, has asked for the waiver, one of those guidelines in there is 95% attendance or participation. Out of the exams that we have given, only one fell slightly short of the 95%. Only one. When we gave the ACT recently, we were at the 95% range of children coming in this building taking the exam. Our current attendance rate to date is 93.34%. That is compared to this time last year, of course, right before the pandemic, was 94.81. So we're a little over a point less. You look at the year prior, and we're at less than 0.5% off. So my point is, our children are showing up virtually and in the building. And a lot of that is attributed to the relationship with children. If you can get 95% of the kids to come in this building and take a test, we're doing something right. And again, I commend primarily this staff and our other staffs as well. That was the other comment I needed to make, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Questions? Please.
Mr. Wallace, let me also commend you and the administration for a very difficult year and more than one could ask for in terms of planning and handling this terrible situation for the school, the parents, and the students. Is it possible that we could get sent to our email address a copy of your presentation that you made here?
You want a copy of my notes, Mr. Carroll?
Well, what you were reading
You're
from,
my
yes.
boss. So yes, sir.
Yes.
What notes?
Yeah, those might be eliminated. Yes, sir. If there's information there you want, now you got to understand I don't grammar check any of this. This is just notes, but sure.
I assumed you were reading from a presentation.
I was. I did. Yes, sir. Both electronic and physical copy right here. Yes, sir.
And rather than taking a lot of notes, I was attending to what you were saying.
Sure. Absolutely. Be glad to.
Did I misunderstand when you said that not only those students who are in the 504 plan, but the IEP can attend school on an A basis, but also those that parents think need that day-to-day help?
No. The kids that chose to be in virtual made a one-year commitment.
Right.
We have worked individually with those families and kids and ebbed and flowed some of those kids in and out.
Right.
Not wholesale classes. So no, those kids there will stay there. We'll continue to meet their needs there. We cannot just say, if you want to come back, you can come back. That would be moving everyone into.
Right.
And it's hard to say, Lori's kids cannot and your kids can. There's got to be a reason. And the guidelines that we have been handed in the Senate Bill 220 says, if this 504 IEP, then they have the option at the parent's discretion. What I'm suggesting or what I'm saying is that option is not for every person. Again, if it was, it go back to the biology example I gave.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
my question is, you said you were addressing kids with IEPs and 504 plans. What does that look like? Is it 4 days a week?
There are some of our children that are in our building 4 days a week. That is correct, yes. And if they so choose, according to the law, I pick up the phone and call Jill. I said, Jill, your daughter has a 504. Miss Wilson says, I want my daughter in that building 4 days a week, and we're going to work that out. And we're going to make that happen. And then Jen's daughter may say, no, we're perfectly fine. And we've got both. We've got both. But I will tell you that our administration, building administrators, are going to personally make a phone call. Not them, just them. But our staff will pick up the phone and call them and let them know. We will also send letters to those, I'm not sure if it's everyone, or those that we're not able to reach. In other words, my point is, we want to make sure everyone understands what the law says, that they have the opportunity to make that decision. That's correct.
And board members, keep in mind that at least with a 504 plan in high school, by and large, what that is preferred seating and extended time on tests. It's no different instruction. And so the odds that a parent would say, oh, I want my child to be there no matter what, without any actual need for differentiated instruction is probably not great. They're probably willing to continue to do whatever they're doing.
Right.
Because those accommodations can easily be made no matter what.
Any other questions? Mr. Wall or staff?
I don't have any questions. I do want to reiterate what everyone said, just to commend you, Jeff, on the leadership that we've had this year. And the staff, I mean, who would have thought a year ago, March 13th, when we left these buildings, we'd be in the situation we're in now.
Right.
Sitting here in a mask and social distance and 6 feet apart, and that terminology wasn't even in our vocabulary. And just for the staff, I feel like what a tremendous undertaking they've had this year with learning Canvas and learning the online platform and getting Chromebooks to all of our students, and just everything we've handled this year. It's just been an amazing effort that we've come together to do this, whereas I think other districts struggled, and they're just now trying to figure out how to get their kids back in school. So I'm just super grateful and blessed that this district has, from the start, had our kids in school. We know how important that is, and we worked hard to make that happen. And I will say, I saw the exhaustion on some of these teachers' faces back in August. You know, like, what are we getting into? What's about to happen here? So I think for us now, as we finish up the school year, like you said, we value every single day in person. We know how important that is, but is it worth going through all these hoops and obstacles to change bus routes, to change schedules, to bring all these kids in, to restructure the classroom setting for 12 or 14 days? Correct. I do agree we should just, keep the path. That's just going to add more stress to these teachers, to the students. Just finish out the year the way we've got a great routine. I feel like the teachers are kind of in a routine, the kids are in a routine, they've adapted to this hybrid plan. And I think we're just doing the right thing by just staying the path. So I appreciate all that you've done this whole year.
Thank you. And I will tell you, I've shared this with you before, but I want to share it again. And this is the kind of staff we have. If you recall, there was a teacher, an elementary school teacher. I walked in her classroom, she had one kid. I said, my goodness. The other kids were quarantined, all 22 or 3 of them. That kid was absent the day before. One kid. And I looked at her desk. There were about 20 little plastic bags with candy and a note in it. And I said, what's that? And I looked at her and she teared up. She said, I'm delivering those to every kid's house tonight. Yes, I want every kid in this building. But that's the kind of people we have that are reaching out, meeting, and that she delivered them all. We are different. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you allowing us. I've said this over and over. I've said this has been the most difficult year of my professional career by far. But because of the support of you and allowing us to do our job, I promise you everything I said to you today has been put through the ringer 50 times. And this group will tell you that. But I want to thank you for that. And we don't make our decisions solely on what other districts do. You can't pick that up and bring that here, nor can we take this and put it there. I respect them for the decisions they're making. But you will see some of the others follow the same track we are, particularly those that have large high schools and that are doing some things right. Yeah. So thank you for your support. Yes, ma'am.
Question, do you know how many districts started out in-person school in August?
I do know, well, it's interesting. It depends on who you ask. News outlets would say 90% were on Plan C, which is not actual. I have the list. It was probably somewhere around 65 to 70%. Jill, do you know?
On Plan C to start.
On Plan C to start the year.
That's probably about right.
Yeah.
And I think the farther on either extreme of coast you are, the more likely it was in person. And the bigger you are, the more likely it was remote.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
And then I think they started bringing in elementary schools, most of them, and no sooner than October, some of them in November, some of them in December, and then lots of phase plans, and some of them still don't have kids in school.
Right.
So it's a variety.
So we have been out on the front. So you get a lot of the headwinds and a lot of the bugs in the face and a lot of the initial stuff that comes flying at you. But I wouldn't turn, I would go, if we went back and knowing what we know now, which is a tremendous amount, we'd do the same thing again. We'd open the doors on August 17th. And I think your staff, the 450 staff, teachers that we have and other staff, the 800 to 900 staff would say the same thing.
I think that's important to look back through all this and not see too many drastic differences that you would make. That's pulling together. So,
Jeff, I'm not really going to say anything that the others have not said, but I will be honest and say that, and not saying that you all were not honest. Sorry, that did not come out right. I will be honest and say, you know, when the governor announced that we could go back to school, me with putting my parent hat on, I was like, yes, we're going back.
Yep.
And, but you know, that was just me thinking of, I got two boys who really need to get, but after, that's why I appreciate you sharing some of the things you shared. I appreciate the emails that we got from teachers and students explaining some things that I would have never thought about.
Right.
In terms of from that parent. I mean, I'm going to be on the board, but I'm not in a classroom. And, you know, as a parent. And, you know, I guess my initial thought was, well, if the 6 feet social distancing is required, we really don't have an option, honestly. But the fact that we're looking at if we would go back after spring break, you know, I hadn't really thought about, you know, well, what does that look like with people traveling after spring break? What could that bring back? Oh, it's really only 12 or 14 days. Not that that would not be beneficial, but is it worth that risk?
Sure.
And I'll put my parent hat back on. I have a senior, and I would love to see him graduate.
Absolutely.
Just like the other probably 350 parents who would like to, in this county as a whole. So, I appreciate you all sharing all those details, because I think sometimes, and I think it will be our job, not only as board members, but as audience members, for when we hear people saying, I can't believe they're not going back, we need to be advocates and let them know this is why. It wasn't just because teachers don't want to go back.
Absolutely.
It's not that. There's a whole lot more to it than that. So I do encourage, because I know we haven't made an official decision, but it does sound like we're moving in a certain direction. So I hope that we will continue to stand behind one another and share with the community why we feel like this decision is the best way to go.
Well, and I want to commend our principals too, and I want to commend our staff, because you know we value input. And we want people to feel comfortable, or at least have the courage to say what's on their mind. And we've had both. We've had both. People want us to open the doors. People say no. We've had it all. But I want to commend our principals who reached out to their staff and gathered their input and brought some of the intrinsic details that I mentioned today that I don't always think of because I'm not in the building every day. They have to make it happen and carry the load as well. You're right.
One other comment, if I may, focusing on what Wendy shared. I think she's right. And I think we all know she's right, that the majority of parents out there who won't have accessibility to what's been done here today are going to hear the governor's declaration and others and wonder, what's wrong? Why aren't the kids going back to school? And for that reason, you were so clear and articulate in your presentation. I think it's something that really should be in the paper, the local paper. Because otherwise, the reaction of parents is going to be essential, other than what we share with them, when they communicate with us, is going to be, what's wrong with those folks? Why don't they have the kids back in school? And part of the big problem that we go through in this country sometimes is the lack of communication.
Right.
Look at the Canvas program, how difficult it's been for the teachers to learn it, the teachers to absorb it, and the parents to understand. So I think we would be wise to share your notes in the newspaper.
I will leave. We have a wonderful communications guru who has said over the last 3 or 4 times that she's about to throw up.
But yeah, communication for sure. And there's going to be communication from this message.
Absolutely.
Of not just the decision, but a lot of the reasons.
Absolutely.
Why it's So, guys, again, this was a discussion. If there's no further questions, the last item on the agenda is a call for an adjournment. We as a board, there's no vote to take with this. This is a support of our staff with the questions, and I think it's vital that we hold steady with what has gotten us this far, and that is the leadership of the staff and us working as a team with that. So with that, I will call for an adjournment.
I so move.
I have a motion by Mr. Carroll.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Smith. All those in favor? We are now adjourned. Thank you for being here.